Can you turn? Peace. My name is Karma Banks, and we are here for another inspiring session of Good Karma, where we connect with powerful voices in wellness, healing, and transformation. So today I am honored to introduce a truly special guest, Yemimah. Yemimah is a dedicated advocate for holistic healing, personal empowerment, and the intersection of spirituality and wellness. Her journey has been deeply rooted in guiding others towards self discovery and balance. And today, she's here to share her wisdom, insights, and expertise with us. In this conversation, we'll explore Yemimah's path, her healing philosophies, and the work she's doing to uplift and transform lives. Whether you're on your own healing journey or looking for inspiration, this discussion is sure to leave you with valuable tools and new perspectives. So let's dive in and welcome Yemimah to Good Karma. Peace, Yemimah. Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And before we begin, just give me one moment because I had something. And we both have our ancestors with us. Do you have a bell with you right now?
Hold on 1 second. I can get one.
Because I thought I had my bell. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And this bell is from the 400 years of our ancestors coming here in 1619. I got it at an event.
Oh,
so this, yes.
Ashe. So there was a reason why I could not find my bell because my bell is not that old. So what I would like to do, since Miss Yemimah is she is a wonderful educator. She is a storyteller, a root worker in the peninsula area from which I hail. And I am so honored to be connected to this beautiful woman of power and ancestral wisdom and voices. So, Yemimah, would you mind giving us an open prayer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So today, dear ancestors, we ask you to continue to guide us, strengthen us, support us. Continue to give us knowledge and the wisdom to use the knowledge. Continue to allow us to hear your voices when you speak to us. Remind us to continue to speak your name. Let our hearts still feel the love that you have for us. Allow our hands to continue the work that you have begun so that we can create new works to leave a legacy to the next generation. We will continue to stand on the shoulders of greatness. Let us make good decisions today. Decisions about our health. Be mindful of the food that we eat, about our finances, the money that we spend, about our friends, the company that we keep, and about our family. Remember to check on our elders. Let us make good decisions and let us be observant to know that when you tap us on our shoulders, when we're about to go left, you remind us that we need to go right. Let us listen to the inner voice, knowing that it is from the ancestors and the Most High, just trying to get our attention. We thank you, ancestors. We give you honor and praise to Mother and Father God and to the ancestors. Amen, Ashe, and Faye.
All right. So we can go ahead and dive in because do I have some questions for you, and these were well thought out questions. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's get it.
Okay. So now I just want to clarify: your ancestors are from the Southampton area. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Actually, they are from a small town called South Hill. I'm from
That's what.
Mecklenburg
Okay.
County, which is not too far from North Carolina.
Okay, okay. And I come through South Hill sometimes. I thought your people were closer to mine, which came from most of mine came from over Bacon's Castle and all of that. So we'll get into that later. But can you tell
Okay.
us about your roots and your connection to the peninsula area of Virginia and South Hill?
Okay. So I was born and raised in South Hill. Again, not too far from North Carolina. I found out through ancestral research that my father's family were actually enslaved in North Carolina on Peter Davis Plantation. And so they moved to South Hill as time went on. And so most of my family, my mother's side of the family is from Lunenburg County, and my father's side is from Mecklenburg County. I live now in the peninsula in Newport News, and I have built a community, or I have community friends that practice the same thing that I practice, which is hoodoo. I am a hoodoo practitioner. I am a hoodoo follower, not realizing I've been that my entire life, just didn't have a name for
Ashe.
it.
Yes, we can be free now, right? Because so many of us, we've had to hide who we were and where we've actually come from
Mm.
to just fit in. And we're going to get into that later. But we're going to, talk about you first. So, what inspired you to become a storyteller, and how has your journey evolved over the years?
I've always been an actress. I've always wanted to be on stage and perform for people. I sang in the choir when I was 6 years old. I was the youngest member of the junior choir at church. I did plays in school. So I've always wanted to tell stories. As I got older, I used to audition for like different plays and different films and things that they were doing, and never got the part. So I was like, you know what? I'm tired of not getting the part. So I'll write my own parts.
Oh,
I started,
yes.
writing shows and started doing one woman shows. So recently, I did Ancestral to find out where my family came from, Africa. And on my mother's side, her legacy goes to Mali, Africa, to a nation called the Imohawk or Tuareg Nation. I found out that they have some of the best storytellers in the world. So it's in my DNA to do this. I found out that they call them not griot, because griot is a French word that they gave to African storytellers, but we are actually called jelly-mousas. So I found out that I come from a long line of jelly-mousas, and their job is to tell stories of the ancestors of their communities, to keep the culture, and to relay messages to people. So I was born into this.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
so powerful. Isn't it something how we may not have the knowledge at that time, but we're actually walking in the footsteps of our ancestors. I mean, like really doing what our ancestors did. It's almost as if we were sent here, and I was talking to someone about this earlier. It's almost as if we have come back, like we're one of the ancestors that
Mhm.
actually came back. Wow.
Yes, I definitely believe that.
Wow. Well, I always said that because when I was a little girl, I kind of knew certain things and I picked up on things. And if you look at my hands actually look older than me. And I had old lady hands as a little girl. So
Wow.
yeah, I was like 7 years old. Now I used to just tell people, oh, I wash my hands all the time. I wash dishes and stuff. So, but anyway, let's get back to this, because girl, I when I say I got some story, I got some questions for you, because I know that you have stories behind every question that I have. So now we're gonna get on to something that is kind of taboo, and it
Mhm.
kind of, I can't say that it angers me, but it's very disappointing in how we are viewed, root workers. Okay, so
Mhm.
what does being a root worker mean to you, and how has this practice shaped your understanding of our people's history?
Okay. So when I looked at the questions, I didn't read all of them, but I did read the one about being a root worker. And I thought to myself, I said, I'm not really a root worker. I have used some herbs. I've made some salves. I've made some hair oil and things of that nature. But I
That's a
said,
root
I'm not
worker, baby.
really a root
That's a
worker.
root worker. That is a
Right.
root
But I
worker.
was thinking, I said, I'm not really a root worker in the sense of what people really believe it is. And my ancestors, they told me, said, no, baby girl, you are. And I said, okay, well, break it down for me, ancestors. How am I root work? They said, well, let's break down what a root worker is. So, a root worker, in a sense, gather herbs and roots and combine them to a specific outcome. Now, we know our ancestors used roots and herbs for two different things: to heal the community or even to harm our oppressors.
That is correct.
So, I said, how am I a root worker? And they said, because you gather our stories and you combine our stories and you use our stories to heal your community. And though you may not harm your oppressors, you
Thank you.
educate them to remind them of the legacy that they have where their forefathers oppressed us.
Thank
So they
you.
said, no, you're a root worker. I said, okay.
And I mean that is kind of difficult to say because people, especially today, have one meaning for root workers. And it
Mm-hmm.
does upset me that we have so many people of our people who want to go against one another. And I'm like, you're not supposed to do that. That's not the way it
Right,
goes. And that's why, I kind of
right.
chose the healing route. But just like you said, there was a period when I was like, oh, I'm not like my grandma. I don't go out here and I don't throw stuff at people. And, I don't do all these tricks, what they call it. And, but I have done other work. So with that being said, and you were like, no, you're not. But it's like anyone, if you know, not anyone, but if you know the roots and a lot of what we do, and I know you do it as well, is intuitive. It's almost as if the roots talk to us. Like you could be, working with a
Mm-hmm.
specific herb, and that herb, you know what to use it for, but never looked it up. And then when you start researching and getting a better understanding, you say, you know what? God called me to this. The creator called me. The ancestors called me to use this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
wow. Okay. So, how do you
Yeah.
feel about people thinking? Because I remember you and I had a discussion last year, and you were saying that, I believe I'm speaking with you, but you were saying that Black women have it bad, with us being labeled as far as people knowing that we are root workers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you
My
how do you
great
feel about that?
grandmother
Mhm.
was. I feel that we are labeled in that. Unfortunately, sometimes we're labeled by each other
Yep.
because we've been so brainwashed and so colonized that unless it comes from the mouth of our oppressors, if it comes from us, it's demonic. If it comes from them, it's spiritual, when it's exactly the exact same thing, you know? So my grandmother was institutionalized, and she actually died at the age of 40 in an institution in Petersburg, insane
This
asylum.
is how we connected. This is how.
Yes,
So, it your grandmother?
my great grandmother, my
My
grandmother's
great
mother.
grandmother died in the same institution.
Hmm.
My great
And
and
probably
it's
for the same reasons.
yes, yes, because my people were very spiritual, and back
Hmm.
then it was not it was frowned upon for any of
Acceptable.
us to
Yes.
operate in who we were. So what they would
Hmm.
do is they would um and I'm just going to say this and correct me with any of this if I am incorrect. They used to say that they were of unsound mind if
Hmm.
they were,
Hmm.
into certain spiritual practices.
Yep. Yep.
And,
Yes.
And
Yes, I
that's
have
what I
my
believe.
great grandmother's death certificate. Yes, I have her death certificate.
I have mine too, but did you know that we could actually get their records from when they were in that hospital?
I have been trying to. I met King Davis,
Hmm.
and he was trying to get some information for me. He was the one that told me that
I have the
what
information
she
for
was
you.
there for. Please send it to me.
I reached
Please
out,
send it
I
to
think I
me.
reached out to him and then it led me to someone else. So there's actually a form that you can
Okay.
submit. It's a form. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna email that to you tomorrow.
Now, you know what? A friend of mine, Angela Jones, who
Hmm.
is from Southampton County, she
Hmm.
lives on the Nat Turner land,
Now, see, that's
and
why I
her great
mentioned Nat
grandmother
Turner.
was there too.
That's why I mentioned
Yes, her
Southampton
great
because
grandmother was there too.
Southampton County is where Nat Turner. That's where he
Hmm.
had the,
Hmm.
and we could get into some
Yeah,
some of that too. Hey,
revolution.
hey, hey. Okay, so
Yes.
now we're gonna get into the history and cultural legacy of your people and where you come from. So South Hill has a deep historical significance, particularly tied to figures. Now I went to Southampton, so Nat Turner and the legacy of African Americans resistance. So how do you see this history reflected in your work? And I know that you had discussed that you go to certain Nat Turner events, and you've actually made me
Mhm.
aware of these events, which I didn't go last year, but guess what? My brother and my sister-in-law went.
Oh, nice.
So they
I
were,
didn't
and
get
they,
to go last year either. Oh, nice.
we going this year.
Yes.
And I also look, and I'm also gonna pull you with me over to Bacon's Castle.
Oh, well, let me to give you a story about Bacon's Castle. So
Okay.
I have presented there 3 times. I
Hmm.
did a Christmas story there, and I did the history of some of the people that were enslaved at Bacon's Castle. Ghost Hunters, the TV show. They were coming to Bacon's Castle, and they went on their website. They saw my presentation. They wanted to know who I was. So they invited me to come on the TV show as a historian while they were out there doing their ghost things or whatever. So there is an episode of Ghost Hunters called Bacon's Castle, the Lighthouse, where
Hmm.
I am the historian that they interviewed. So it was good. It was
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that for us. I love that for us.
Yes.
And it's crazy because well, not crazy. That's just something that I say, but
Mhm.
it's ironic now that our families went through so much. So my family actually did live on Bacon's Castle. But yes, yes, my grandmother's marriage certificate, death certificate has Bacon's Castle. That's how and my great grandmother. So my great grandmother, actually, give me 1 second. I'm going to show you something, okay? One moment.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
All righty. So yes, we've had some giggles and everything, and we had finished with the Bacon's Castle, right? So
Mhm.
I have definitely wanted to go back to Bacon's Castle, okay, and tell the stories of my
Okay.
ancestors. So this is actually my great grandmother who died in the
Aww.
same, she transitioned in the same institution as your great grandmother. This is my grandmother's mother. So
Oh,
this
wow.
is this is Grandma Geneva Spratley,
Wow.
right? And so you were
Beautiful.
asking, you said my people actually were from Bacon's Castle. I want you to see something. So I have my grandparents on both sides. I have their um marriage license. What does that say? Can you see it?
I can't see that. Mm-mm. Wait a minute. Hold on. Where am I? Oh, wait a minute. It says,
Which
is that Newport News?
where she was born, right here, birthplace.
Oh, Bacon's Castle. Oh my God, Isle of Wight. Wow.
My people are
Oh
from
my
Bacon's
God.
Castle. And see, that's
I
why.
have a friend of mine. I'm gonna have to connect you to because his family's from Bacon's Castle too.
So have you heard of Scipio Brown?
Mm-mm.
I'll tell you about that later because I'm not really proud of that ancestor. But
Okay, okay.
my
Peyton Young. Peyton Young is a friend of mine. She works with the colleges. She does a lot of like genealogy and stuff. She
mhm.
has a whole library about Bacon's Castle. I'm going to find the information that I have and send it to you.
Okay, okay. And
Yeah, those that were enslaved at Bacon's Castle. Yeah.
but guess what? My people weren't enslaved. My people were free like in the
Mm.
1820s. Isn't that
Oh
odd?
wow, that's
1840s, like 18, because my great uncle
mm,
was Goodman Brown. And I don't know if you know about Goodman Brown, but he was in the Navy. I forgot the ship that he was on begins with an M,
mm.
and he was a delegate in 1887 and 1888. So he actually represented
Okay.
Prince George's County as well as Surrey County. So he was in with the
Nice.
U.S. Oh, let me see. Let me get it right because I'm always messing up. And it's just I put their pictures up sometimes because
Mhm.
it's just to see my great uncle and these men. I'm gonna hold it up. Let me see. He was let me get there, get who they were correct. They were the Virginia General Assembly
Mm.
of 1887
Okay. Oh, nice.
to
I've seen
18.
that picture before.
Yeah. This one right here.
Okay.
This one right here, the one with the beard in the back. I don't know. Can you see him?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's my great great great
Mm-mm.
uncle.
Okay. Put it back up. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow.
his niece, who is my great 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 aunt,
Mm.
she is actually the one who um helped start Surrey County's NAACP chapter and hosted Thurgood Marshall. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Nice. Nice.
So we're
Nice.
gonna
And these are the kind of stories. These are the kind of stories that we need to be telling during Black History Month because I told somebody the other day that when February is when my grandfather passed away on February 11th,
mm,
1944. My grandmother was
sorry.
widowed at the age of 37 with 6 children. And although his story, you may not find it in a book, you may not find it, but for the simple fact that he was a Black man that lived in the South in 1944 and survived, and his children wanted for nothing, and his wife wanted for nothing, is amazing. It's a great feat. You know what I mean?
When
So
I
we always have stories of everybody else, but we got to tell our own ancestor
yes,
stories.
yes, and guess what? Many of us don't have. I mean, our people definitely were. They definitely knew struggle. But they were resilient people, and not all of our people were slaves,
Mm-hmm,
and not all of
mm-hmm.
our people were beat down and woe is me. We had a lot of people that was
Right.
back, and I said my ancestors they had to be the rowdiest damn bunch. You know what I'm saying? Because the way I fight back, no, 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 no.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wasn't just out in the fields. You understand?
Right.
Not everyone was just out in
Right.
the fields, and there were people who were definitely standing up for themselves, like High John the Conqueror.
Mm-hmm.
so, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay, okay. Wow. So
Awesome.
now, many of our ancestors have practiced root work, herbalism, and spiritual traditions. They were those traditions were demonized and erased over time. So tell me, how
Mm.
do you honor and reclaim these traditions?
Um, a lot of traditions that we talk about, most Black people do. Again, we just didn't have a name for it, or we didn't use that name. It was just living.
Yeah,
So when you take New Year's, you talk to any Black person on New Year's, what you eating? Black
black
eyed
eyed
peas.
peas.
Right?
Black eyed peas.
You know what I mean? Other traditions on New Year's Day at my mother's house, a woman can't come through the door first. It has to be a man that comes through the door
I
first.
tell people that all the time, and I'm like, my grandma, you
You
would
don't wash
stand.
you don't wash clothes on New Year's
No,
Day.
do not have no dirty clothes. You got to wash all the clothes
They're on dirty
before.
house. These are our traditions.
Did your family go as far as making sure there was money in your hand, when, because I just thought that was crazy, because like when I was young, they had my mama put money in my hand. I'm like, you ain't give me no money yesterday, but now you put dollar bills in
Yeah.
my hands. So these are
Yeah.
the traditions, and I tell people all the time, there are people in our family who are actually, and working roots does not mean that you are harming someone or hexing someone.
Right.
Working
Right.
roots means that you are embracing what God gave us, what the Creator gave us. And that's things like, this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what they have portrayed us to be. So,
Right. Right. And I think we don't think about the fact that, okay, our ancestors didn't have doctors to go to. Even after emancipation, we didn't trust white doctors. Even in 2025, we don't trust white doctors. So
no.
they had to use what they had at home in nature in order to, take care of their family. And people seem to think that, oh, my ancestors, no, 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 baby. They use barks off the tree to make teas with, to get rid of that sore throat. My cousin, she passed away a couple of years ago, but up until 2 years ago when she passed away, she would keep snow in her freezer.
I have
And when she
too.
had a sore throat, she would take a spoonful of that snow. I was like, these are things that we use and still use
Yep.
today. Still use
Yep.
today.
And it's funny that you say that, because like, my history. I grew up in foster care, but I always had a connection with my grandmother, my family, period. And I actually, my formative
Mm-hmm.
years were with my grandparents. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, having been around my grandmother, I had so much of her just embedded in me. I didn't realize it. So after I had gotten out of foster care and everything, I had gotten emancipated, and I had a child, I had a baby, and his father and I, we had our first place in Hampton. And
Mm-hmm.
honey, I did not go to grab a mop. I was down on my hands and knees scrubbing the floor just as my grandmother had. And I did that for months. And I guess he was feeling sorry for me. So what he did was, he came home. One day he said, "Hey baby, here, I got you something. Don't get mad at me, but you don't have to be on your hands and knees scrubbing the floor
Mm-hmm.
anymore." He said it's like you be in the bathroom just scrubbing, and I'm like, yeah, that's what we do. That's what my grandma did. So it's
Right,
just
right.
things like, yeah, it's just things like that. Like, it didn't occur to me to use a mop, even though I had lived with other
Mm-hmm.
families that used mops. But my grandma, she
Right.
she always, and she had that ammonia, boy. She had other things in that mop bucket. See, I didn't have the stuff in my mop bucket. She had other things in that mop bucket. So, okay, so how do you how do you how do you navigate the tension between historical truth and the way history has been distorted or erased by mainstream narratives?
Because I have studied history, I refuse to, in the words of Shaka Zulu, let the oppressor's language dance on my tongue. So, so I make sure that I give them the character that I'm portraying in truth. Like, for example, when I portrayed Coretta Scott King, I know that she was a Christian. Her husband was
Mm-hmm.
a pastor, but very few people know that her grandmother was a midwife on the plantation. And
Mm.
so I can bring that into her story. So when I talk about the ancestors within the story, the ancestors are talking about their ancestors. So I
Yes.
always bring some
Ashe.
type of his story that they don't know about, you know. And we think about even Dr. King, his great grandfather was a preacher on the plantation. We know what kind of Christianity they gave us, but what
Yeah.
kind of Christianity did he preach? And you can
Mm-hmm.
look at Dr. King and know that he preached Christianity of liberation because
Mm.
those are stories that are passed down. So I try to reconcile with giving them an authentic character, not taking away from their religion, but also giving them that their religion was influenced by the spirituality of their ancestors.
Ashe. Exactly. Wow. Okay. And I hope we're giving the people what they need to hear. Not what they
Yes,
want to hear, not what
right.
is, like I always say, not is what's on the tick and the talk. Not the people who
Right.
just put on no, and you and I was not the people who just put on head wraps and they picked up the book of Psalms and they learned that Psalms was, you know, a lot of the root workers use the Psalms. What, let's
Mm-hmm.
get into that. How do you feel about that? Those people who, because I mean, there's a lady out here who actually was what I thought was a good friend at the time, a good friend of mine who actually took parts of my story about my ancestors and it's is portraying as if it's hers. So what do
Mm-hmm.
you think about the, yes, I thought I told you about that. So what do you think about, and I'm not gonna say her name, but she knows who she is, okay? But what do you think
Mm-hmm.
about those people who are out here now? It's good. I think that it's good, even if you didn't know whether your family was into root work or not. It's good to still want to practice because you may have had someone in your family. But what do you think about those people who have nothing in their family and they're around here talking about my ancestors this and my ancestors that when they don't even know their ancestors? Don't know and don't
Um,
have a name, like you just seen things on YouTube and thought it was
right.
power, or just as I say, there are people out here who are hurting people. Oh, someone cut me off in traffic, or I want this man, I'm gonna put a root on. No, I'm like, no, that's not the way this works. Our ancestors would never.
It's funny. Right. It's funny you should say that because I work with a lady and she is definitely a staunch Christian. She does not like to hear me talking about ancestors, none of that. But some of the things that she says her mother used to do is definitely like hoodoo. You know what I mean? Some of the rituals that we did that our ancestors did. But when I
Come
tell her
on
that,
now.
she don't want to hear it. So a couple of weeks ago, she left work and apparently somebody cut her off in traffic. So she calls me and she says, "Hey, I need you to put somebody in a jar for me."
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So the next day when I got to work, I said, "What was that message you left me?" She said, "Yeah." She explained what had happened. I said, "But you were joking about putting somebody in a jar, right?" She said, "No." I said, "Okay, a few things wrong with that." I said, "Number one, it's usually the person who had the offense done to them that does the work. Number two, there are some people who will do work for you. However, they're going to charge you. And number two, they got to do double the work because they're going to do the work for you. And then they got to protect themselves from that energy coming back to them."
Mhm.
I said, and third thing, why you ain't call on Jesus?
Let me sip this tea. Mm.
I said, why
Let
was
the
I the
let the
first person
church
you thought
say amen.
Why
why
wasn't
they always
Jesus the
want
first
us?
thing we thought of?
Why they always want us when it's dirty stuff involved? Like, I don't do that.
Right.
I am,
Right.
you know, I feel sorry for people who walk around here and just think that that's, and oddly enough, I've even had people close to me, I'll just say that, call me up and ask me. I said, look, if you don't get off my phone with that craziness.
Right. 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 They don't call you to say, hey, Carmen, can you make some salve for me? Because I've got some inflammation,
No, they
can
could
you
go
make
get
some
Bengay. They could go get
right,
Bengay for that.
exactly.
They could go get
Exactly.
Bengay. They
Right.
see they want me to do the
Right.
stuff that I don't do. They want me to do
Right.
what they wouldn't do. I just and I would like to go ahead and get into this portion of it. Now there is a such thing as justice magic. And I understand that
Hmm.
you may not be deeply, but there is a such thing as justice magic where
Oh,
if
I
someone
know.
is messing with you, you can move them out of the way. That's not causing harm now. Okay, that's
Right.
not causing harm. There are certain things that you can do to return things back if you feel that
Hmm.
something was sent your way. That is not
Right.
hexing. That is definitely, that is work. That's work that needs to
Hmm.
be done sometimes. It is not asking for anyone's life to be taken or asking that someone, there be bodily harm. Although there are plenty of people who operate in that energy. I cannot because there are stories around what my people did, and I just choose not to operate in that energy.
Right.
Plus we're about good karma. You understand what I'm saying? So my
Right.
mission has
Right.
been to change the story, change the narrative of who our people were. Our people were not out
Hmm.
here hurting one another, okay? They weren't out here
Right.
just throwing hexes on one another. Because guess what? If you needed some sugar, you can go to your neighbor's house and get some sugar, okay? If you needed
Hmm.
anything, if you needed a candle, we was out there looking out for one another. Do you think those people,
Hmm.
because I actually have an ancestor that was in the Underground Railroad and had gone up to Canada. Now, do you think those people would have gotten away, freed themselves, been successful, because many were successful after the movement, been successful if they were out here throwing tricks at one another? Do you think
Right.
so? Do you know the
Exactly.
energy? Do you know the energy, the time that is wasted to do something like that?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Especially in these
Exactly.
times with this. And you know what, I'm just going to be honest. Like, I've always loved my people, but with what has been going on in this nation, I love my people even more because I understand that we really need one another, and we have to
Hmm.
take things back to how our ancestors moved. Not everything, because I see some women be up here that talking about, oh, I'm not my ancestors. I'm not. Well, you what? Guess what? You a future ancestor.
Hmm.
How
I
about that?
hate that
Or
saying.
I'm not gonna do what because I used to say the stupid stuff too. Okay, because now I'm gonna say this. I used to say some of the crazy stuff, and ancestors knocked me down. So it was. Oh, I'm not. I have resources. I don't have to go through what my grandmother went through. But guess what? I also understand. I understand that as the generations, as with each new generation, we are generations that give up. Our ancestry, our people did not give up. They stayed.
Right.
They had goals, and they said, you know what? I love my family enough that we're gonna tough this out. And
Hmm.
they took their vows very seriously, because I seen
Hmm.
one lady on Facebook, and she was talking about, and so many people were amen in her, and I was like, this whole strong black woman stuff, and Miss Independent, it's okay to be independent, but guess what, as black people we need each other. She had left her
Exactly.
husband after 1 year. Now it says she wasn't abusing her. She left him after 1 year, and I'm like, 1 year ain't even, that ain't even long enough.
Right, exactly.
So they want to have, and then there's the women that want to have men who take care of them. I need somebody like my granddaddy, my great granddaddy, but they aren't willing to do what grandma and great grandma did.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I hate that saying I'm not my ancestor. Like you say that because you haven't studied what your ancestors did, because our ancestors resisted every single solitary day. They resisted in small ways, in big ways. So you think
Yes.
that your ancestors just were great, happy to be enslaved and happy to be in bondage
They
and
act
happy to
like they
be
were,
oppressed, and they
yes,
didn't fight back.
yes, yes, no, our people weren't like that. And I mean, it took, and
Mm-mm.
even if they didn't, and even if they weren't as resistant, it takes a certain mindset, just a different type of spirit to withstand all of what our people endured. Seriously, like kids being taken away,
Mm-hmm.
your spouse being violated in front of you, and then come on.
But the thing about it is, they don't see small things. Our ancestors, just by learning to read, was resistance. Laughing in the face of oppression was resistance. Getting married, knowing that your spouse could be taken away tomorrow, that was resistance. So all of the things we do, we resisted every day, all day,
Mm-hmm.
every day, all day. So that bull crap about I am not my ancestors. Okay, you're
Baby.
right. You're not, because you're not as strong as they are. So yeah, I don't know. Definitely not as
Look,
strong as
a- and we
because
can only
we
hope
need a
and
nap
pray.
after going to the mailbox.
We can only
Yes,
hope and pray that we remain a fraction, have the strength of a fraction of what our ancestors had, because we kind of hard headed, and we don't,
exactly.
we don't, that our ancestors, they were very faithful people when it came to what they believed in, that
Mm-hmm.
they just stood by what they believed in. Okay, so now we only have two,
Mm-hmm.
we have three other sections, so I'm gonna go ahead and get through these. And so what are hold on, I have a good one. How do you approach teaching young people about their history, culture, and spiritual traditions in a way that empowers them?
Um, Again, when I do a presentation, depending on the person that I am presenting, find a way to put that into their stories, especially with Queen Mother Harriet Tubman. Whenever I tell her story, I
Mm-hmm.
always go back to her grandmother, Modesty, who was
Mm-hmm.
from Ghana. She was an Ashanti woman. And so I talk about the spirituality of the Ashantis, and we know that it was her grandmother. Of course, her mother, had the same things and taught Harriet the same things. So I always
Mm-hmm.
bring that in. And another way that I teach them about their ancestors is I have a Black history game that I play with them. I do like 1 minute stories about certain people and Black people in history, and then I break them up into teams and we play a game. And I'll ask the questions about that specific person, and they get very competitive. They get very competitive. They have to ring the bell, and whoever rings the bell first has to answer the question to see what they retained. And
Okay.
at the end of the game, they get little medals, like first, second, and third place medals that I give them. Yeah, and I tell them, I said, you have to go home and tell whoever's at home one thing you learned today that you didn't know before. And they learn about their ancestors.
Mm, that's amazing. That's
Yes.
amazing. Now, I do want to ask you something, because we kind of had
Mhm.
this discussion beforehand, how sometimes we are put in positions where we have to work in spaces where there's not a lot of people who look like us. And
Mhm.
you were saying that you really would like to work with more. of our people. Can you tell us more about that? And I can say this. I know that you're honored to just do the work that you do. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
anything about racism or anything like that, but we understand that our people need, people like us. We need each other. So tell us, how can our black and brown people support you more, with your journey, your mission to spread our stories, our knowledge, our ancestral wisdom.
Invite me to come and speak. Um, I have so I have so many stories, and I'm honored to tell ancestral stories, but I'm honored to tell like my bloodline ancestral stories as well. I got to share my great grandmother's story about her being institutionalized at an
Mhm.
African event last year. So as I said before we started recording, I get more white people to invite me than I do people that look like me. And I'm going to tell you why. I was a Christian for 40 something years. And as soon as I divorced Jesus, Jesus got all the friends. You know how you have
Yeah.
mutual friends in a
Yes.
relationship and you
You know
divorce,
what?
one partner will get the friends? Jesus got all the friends.
Mm,
So
mm.
now that I'm not a Christian anymore, they don't want to hear what I have to say. Even though it's educational, it's not about religion, it's about our ancestors. They do not want to hear it because I left the faith.
And that's funny that you say that. It's funny. It's not funny, but wow, I never thought of it like that. And you're so right, because when I started saying that I no longer identify as being Christian, people look at us different. They even think that we don't believe in God, and we don't. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
get called, you're a devil worshiper, or you're into
Mm.
voodoo, or somebody even told me this this guy that I dated, and I crazy nigga, we were together for some years. He said, "You pray to the dirt." I said, "You ain't never seen me praying to no daggone dirt. What is you?"
Oh boy. Well, I
They
tell you
just
what, the dirt is older than their God. And when I tell people that, my ancestors is older than your God. Your God ain't but 2,000 years old. My ancestors go back a million years. So there's that.
thank you, thank you. And I had actually put something up, and I was saying that our people, they want to belong. And I understand that our people really want to belong. They want to belong. And we all have gotten into that. Like, there was one point in my life I had joined as an Eastern Star, and I'm an Eastern Star, although
Mhm,
I'm no longer active. But it's like, because so many of us did not have this connection to our family, we go out in life and we try to connect with others who would be, you know our family, I guess, sororities and
mhm,
fraternities, and because it's so much that it's also embedded in our culture that we have lost, as far as like us sticking together. We don't stick together, and when
mhm,
I say that, I mean blood family. We have more families that are torn apart today. We
mhm,
didn't see this in the 80s. I mean, we seen, such and such might be, put your pocketbook up because such and such coming over. But we didn't have people who were just not talking to their families. We didn't have a lot of
right.
children against their parents. And I say this because it seems as though, as time has gone on, and certain entities have gotten so entangled in our families, in our business, our children are no longer respecting the elders, and that's a part of hoodoo as well. We
Mhm,
not only do we venerate our ancestors, but we also we protect, you got to take care of the elders. The elders are like books,
Mhm.
books and trees. We continually have to raise them up and make sure we take care of them. How do you feel about that? Our people, do you think that's why our a lot of our heritage has just been lost because our kids don't want to sit down and listen? They don't
Yeah,
want they
yeah.
don't want to
I think
respect.
that,
Now there are children that are listening, but they don't. I sit and I watch boys let elders stand up. I sit and I watch young men not
mhm.
open the door for women, and it's like I just sit and I just watch.
Yeah, yeah. And I see it all the time because I'm in the school system a lot. And so I
Hmm.
see that, the disrespect from the young people. But I think that the Black church has gotten so far away from what our ancestors founded it to be. The
Hmm.
Black church used to be community. It used to be you could go to the Black church for anything. You'd go to the Black church for education. You would go to the Black church for jobs. You would go to the Black church for mentorship. But that's no longer the case. The Black church now is a show. It's every Sunday morning you go to get your weekly orgasm, and Monday,
It's a hustle. It is a hustle
yes.
because I remember
Hmm.
even when I would go and visit different, because some foster homes where I was in, I would go away to other places like for the summer. And I remember I would go to vacation
Hmm.
Bible school, vacation Bible study.
Hmm.
And guess what? I was treated just like the other children who were there.
Hmm.
There was not this big show. And I said, they must have a whole network of vacation Bible schools. So everybody giving me this orange juice and these them butter cookies that you could put on,
Butter cookies.
that you could act like it's a rain. And I said, I back then I felt welcomed. And now, although
Hmm.
I'm not Christian, I still, understand a lot of those Christian principles and I respect them because that's where
Hmm.
I come from. And Christianity helped me through some very, very dark places. And just like
Right.
you said, church has gotten so far away from where it used to be. Let's say, like, if I am to go to church, and I'm going to go to church soon, that's where I come from, my roots. So
Hmm.
I'm not going to show my shoulders. Do you know we used to get in trouble? You cannot
Right.
show your shoulders. You
Hmm.
cannot
And you
have
couldn't have
anything.
bare legs.
You cannot. No, you got to wear stockings. And it's
Yes.
like even when I went to church, when I first moved here to Charlotte, my children and I we joined a church, and I'm not gonna mention the church because it's a very well known church, and it really disappointed me because this was how actually stopped going to church altogether. So I actually
Hmm.
had joined the church, had my girls were excited, they wanted to be on the choir. I let someone know that I was a single mother with 4 children, but I wanted my
Hmm.
children to be involved. So I actually had like a medical scare back then, which
Hmm.
disrupted my life and the life of my children. So we didn't go to church for some months. And I'm like, you know what? After everything came back, my biopsy and everything was good. I said, I could have died. No one checked on us. What? I was like, that wasn't the church that I knew. But I'm going to say there are some churches that are still sticking together. And I'm not against
Hmm.
Christianity. I'm not against Christians at all. I respect all of my brothers and sisters, but we really got to get it together. These mega churches,
Yeah.
and my thing is this: people being turned down. You're tithing to this entity every Sunday, whether it's a
Hmm.
dollar, $5. Them dollars and $5 and $20, they add up. So you've given the church
Yeah.
all this money, and sometimes when you go to them, that you're gonna get no, or but you're giving to the pastor's anniversary. I can't. That's a whole
Yeah.
nother segment. But
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. In these mega churches, because I come across students sometimes that they're like in the fifth, sixth grade, and they're reading at a second grade level.
mhm.
And where is the church? Because if your church is that big, you should have, I know you got some school teachers in your church. There is not a church that should not have mentors and people who can help younger students learn how to read. That is what the church used to be for. We would go to the church to get an education. And so now you have a lot of Black people are, oh my God, they're not going to teach Black history anymore in school. Teach it at home, teach it in your church. You ain't got to worry about them not teaching it in school.
Do you
If
remember when
you
they
taught
used
it,
to give scholarships in church?
yes, ma'am.
Do they still
Yes,
do
ma'am.
that?
Some churches do, but a lot of them, again, it's just a show. It's just for you to go and get your weekly orgasm and
Yeah.
then come home. Yeah,
And
you
and,
know,
and when
it's
I
it's
heard
unfortunate.
when I heard about people, and this is nothing against the church, but when I heard about women who, it was a particular church, they were saying that women were going to the church dressing up, just wanting to sit in the front row, trying to get the pastor who was already married. And I'm just like, are you serious?
Oh my God, girl, I got so many church stories. I will say I'm not against Christianity. I am against what the Black church has become because I have had so many negative experiences with different Black churches to the point where I'm like, you guys got to be kidding me. Jesus ain't coming back, not for this foolishness.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this, and I understand what you're saying because I have some religious trauma that stems from
Mm-hmm.
the church. I won't go into that, but I will say this, and I actually converted to Buddhism about 8 years ago. So the
Okay.
same things that happen in the church happen in other religions. Okay, let me just sip my tea on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was at a synagogue for 5 years.
Because and I experienced like unthinkable, unthinkable religious trauma in Buddhism, and I'm just like,
Mm.
whoa, yeah. So it's
Yeah,
just the
yeah.
people, you know what I'm saying? It's no one
Mm-hmm.
religion, it's no one path. Because let me tell you something. I talked to this lady. She's Hindu. She deals with
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. So wow, it's just I just feel like we have to do better as people, period, as human
As people,
beings.
period.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
so I'm gonna ask you the last few questions. It's about maybe three or
Okay.
four. So we're in Black History Month. What does Black History
Mm-hmm.
Month mean to you? And how can we use this time to deepen our understanding of our spiritual and cultural heritage?
For me, Black History Month is every month because I'm a historian. so, so I teach Black history 365 and 366 on leap year. So, but,
I love you.
but I think it's good to have for people who need some type of structure. Some people need that structure. They need to have that to remind them of certain things. And that's people who I don't know what to call them. I don't want to say are not woke because I hate that term now because they've turned
No,
it
no, I know
into
the
something.
term. People who black and don't know they black.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
it's a lot because I lived in this one neighborhood and it was only two black people on the street, myself and our neighbors, and our
Mm.
neighbors, they had no clue they were black. I knew they was black when the mother-in-law came from Baltimore and I was out in my garden and we was dapping it up and I said, girl, you can come on over. You can have some wine with me. She said, yeah, because I really need to get up out that house. I said, yeah, because they ain't black. I know you black though. She birthed a black child, but
But
the black
yes,
child lost her blackness through the birth canal. Okay. So
see, see, so Black History Month is a good thing for people who need structure and just need a reminding that I am black. So let me talk about some black people at least for 28 days. Let me tell you, I have gone to churches in during Black History Month, And I have heard women say, I will be glad when Black history is over so I don't have to wear these clothes anymore. Because they'll come dressed in kente cloth or other African fabric. And I have heard them say, I will be glad when this is over so I don't have to wear these clothes anymore.
That just tells you who they are. That
Yes.
tells you exactly who they
Yes.
are.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a moment of silence for
Yeah.
our brothers and sisters who don't know who they are. Okay, moving right along. I hope someone is learning something out here. So, what do you hope to see for the future of Black storytelling, spirituality, and education, as well as root work?
I want to see our stories being told without being whitewashed. I
Mm.
want to see them being told authentically. I want the next generation to know that we come from a people of greatness and that slavery is not our beginning. I want the next generation to know that we are the original Hue, Hueman, and that we are indigenous to the planet, not just the soil, but we are indigenous to the planet. And we populated the entire earth. And that is what I tell my students at the end of every session after we've played the game, we've done all that. This is what I give them. This is what I need you to know about yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
Ashe,
yes,
ashe.
yes,
I think
yes.
that's wonderful. What you're doing, everything that you're doing. And I definitely, so, we're going to wrap things up now. And I definitely want others to connect with you. Maybe they have programs. I know that they have programs in the Richmond area
Mm-hmm.
of Virginia. Have you reached out to anyone there?
I used to work in Richmond. I lived in Richmond for 30
Okay.
years.
Okay. Well, we
Yeah,
could talk
I
about
just
that. We could talk about
yeah,
that in a moment. So,
yeah.
what we want you to do is we want to know how we can support you and how can we connect with you. Let us know if you have a website. Let us know your social media.
Okay, so I am. I don't have a website, but I am on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Yemimah Davis,
Mm-hmm.
and then I also have a Facebook page called Yemimah's World. I have a YouTube podcast, and it is called We Are Our Ancestors.
Mm. Are you
And
serious? How come
yeah,
I didn't know about that?
I don't know, ma'am.
Because I would have definitely, well, I'm
Yeah,
going to
because
do
I
that.
share some of my videos of my episodes. I share on my Facebook page.
Okay.
Yes, we are
And
our ancestors.
and I think I did connect with you on Threads too. You're on Threads, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Okay. And also, yesterday was the anniversary of my mother's joining the ancestors. She joined them in 2018. And last year, I authored my first book. It
Yes.
is a memoir to my mommy. It's a picture of me and mommy on the front.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
and I
yes,
have to get my copy. I definitely have to get
yes,
my
ma'am.
copy. So
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your insight with us today. So your journey and dedication to healing is truly inspiring because you are showing our people how to heal through the ancestors.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
actually, that's how I actually got deep into this with my own healing journey. So you
Mhm.
are really, you're doing great work for the community. So we appreciate your time, your energy, and the work that you are doing to uplift and empower others. Wishing you
Thank you.
continued success on your path. Until next time, peace.
Thank you. Ashe.